This is also new at noon. President Trump tweeting he's authorized the federal government to arrest anyone who vandalizes or destroys monuments or statues, who says they may face up to 10 years in prison and charges could be applied retroactively. His tweet coming just hours after police in Washington, D.C. used pepper spray to block protesters from taking down the statue of former President Andrew Jackson at Lafayette Square. This is across from the White House. Over the past few weeks, we've seen dozens of memorials and statues dedicated to those associated with slavery and white supremacy be defaced or torn down.